The map of the month for July 2011 is Jobama's remake of Aquatos Labs, an original map by Jobama. Architecturally, the map's pretty good. There's a lot of odd angles which makes it feel like it wasn't limited to the hammer grid. This is especially visible in the outside areas where walkways and struts and buildings are all at odd angles and intersect with each other really nicely. Detail hasn't been skipped for the interiors either. The walls are all interesting to look at and have screens and various valves and knobs and stuff you want to press. Unfortunately you can't because there's no interactivity, but that's not really part of architecture, so why am I mentioning it now? Because I'm not very good at this reviewing thing. The worst part of the map architecturally are the cliffs. They just look a bit stupid and almost rushed, as if you couldn't really think of how to close in the compound. And it's a bit of a shame that all four sides are just cliff. Would have been nice to see one side maybe with an entrance and a nice vista to look at. It's a small detail, it's just the border of the map. Texture is not bad, everything's well aligned and it looks like every texture fits the brush it's been put on pretty well. My problem is that the submerged WAD is really overused and I much prefer to see people using their own custom content. One feature of the submerged WAD is glows for all the screen textures, and here they just seem to be really weird. Some of them are floating, sort of half a foot away from the wall, aren't even aligned properly. It's very odd. Also, some glass is breakable and some isn't, with no apparent visual distinction between either. It makes it quite difficult to know where you can go and where you can't. Now, it's very good that you included ambient sound. Many mappers forget to, but holy shit they were loud. Really loud. And using the same sounds again and again in different locations, oftentimes in the same room. It was like, two kids in the back of the car desperately trying to get their parents' attention, like, and it's a deathmatch map. You couldn't put up with that for the 20 minutes a deathmatch round lasts. You'd go insane and start killing people, which is actually, I suppose, alright because you're playing a deathmatch map. Lighting is varied and colourful, which is always nice to see. There's some odd use of sprites, which shrink and grow as you get closer to them and further away from them, respectively. But it just looks weird. I couldn't figure out what they were supposed to be until I realised they were just meant to be regular glows. That's not really how it works, especially not on a light that's, a big light panel taller than a person. Lighting's also way too bright in places. Some hallways looked almost full bright, which is a shame to see considering the rest of the map's so varied. Gameplay wise, interiors are way too indistinct, which makes it very easy to get lost. I can just imagine trying to tell someone to meet me in, the metal lab. It might cause some confusion. It's also way too difficult to get topside. It's almost like the lifts were an afterthought. Would have been nice to see a main entrance or something like that, a nice focal point for the combat. Just nitpicking, there were a couple of props that were floating, which actually brings me on to the subject of models. You had like dissected zombies and stuff like that, which aren't original Half-Life models. I would like to know where you got those. Did you make them? Or did you find them somewhere? In which case, where's the credits? And the only reason I knew that you'd used the submerged WAD is because I've seen it before. If you're using other people's content, you should really include some sort of credits somewhere in the map or in a readme. Overall, it's a very competent deathmatch map, with a few flaws. It's a bit like a Scotch pie. It looks really tasty on the surface, but ends up being generally flavourless, and you wouldn't want to know what went into making it. Remember to vote for next month's Map of the Month, URL, here and in the description. This is especially visible in the outside areas where there's catwalks and walkways that all feel